When my best friend was 5, she would talk to a woman she saw in a mirror in the hallway of the house her parents had just rented. Her parents became worried that she might be developing some psychological issue, or even thinking worse, a brain tumor, because she would have whole conversations with the mirror. They asked her one day what he looked like and why he was there. She took it a step further. She told them all about his family, what he did for a living, what he looked like, and how he died. Her parents freaked out and made her an appointment with a child counselor, but they were booked out a few weeks. In the meantime, they had talked to the minister at their church, who listened intently and got a certain look on his face. They were sure he was going to say their daughter needed deep psychological help, but instead, he told them about 3 owners ago, there was a man who lived in the house. He was a lawyer and was shot by one of the people he helped put behind bars. Her parents quickly broke the lease and they moved in next to us, which is when I met her, because that was exactly what she repeated to her parents. I was visiting my grandparents last summer, helping them spruce up their house to sell. One night, after a full day of painting and rearranging furniture, I was in a deep sleep, until something grabbed my arm that was draped over the edge of the bed. Naturally, I screamed, and my grandma came running. When she came in, I instantly burst into tears and told her what had just happened. She checked under the bed just to make me feel better, but no one was there, of course. I was so embarrassed because I was 13 years old, way too old to be afraid of the dark. She reassured me it was okay, and that I must have had a nightmare. But to this day, I will tell you, it was way too real to be a nightmare. About 3 years ago, I was traveling home for Christmas, and I was on a layover in the Minneapolis airport. My flight got delayed due to engine trouble. They had to find a new plane to replace the broken one. A huge snowstorm started about the time we landed, and by the time they found us a replacement plane, there was at least 4 inches on the ground with no end in sight. We were offered hotel vouchers, but it would be hours before we could find a hotel and transportation to get there, if we could find one with room, so most of us just hunkered down in one of the big waiting rooms. I found a corner of the room to relax in and used my suitcase as a footrest and carry-on as a pillow. I couldn't help but notice an elderly gentleman that kept staring at me from across the room. It was a little creepy, but I tried to ignore him. A short while later, he approached me and started talking. After a few minutes, he asked if I knew where he could get a cup of coffee, so I pointed him in the direction of Starbucks. To my complete surprise, he took a few steps and disappeared into thin air. I still get chills when I think of that encounter. I've never had something happen like that before or since. The day I graduated was the best day of my life to that point. It was bittersweet because I had just lost my grandpa 3 months before, but he told me how proud he was the day before he died. I graduated from a large school, so the ceremony was a few hours long. It took probably an hour and a half just to read the names and hand out diplomas. We were seated in rows of chairs by alphabetical order right up on stage. At first, we were all nervous and excited and just having fun finding our families and friends in the crowd and waving to them. Then, as the ceremony got going, we somewhat stopped paying attention. At least I did. I was scanning the audience, actually trying to count how many people were out there, when I nearly passed out. A figure walked through the back auditorium doors and waved at me. It took me a few seconds to realize it, but it was my grandpa. I waved back, and I looked to the crowd, found my parents, who were looking at me with concern. They looked to the back of the auditorium, but by their body language, I could tell they didn't see what I saw. My parents shared this story with me many years ago. When I was a toddler, I used to see things. I have no recollection of it because I was so young. My mom had laid me down to take a nap in my crib upstairs and was cleaning up the trail of toys I had left behind. She said I went silent, so she figured I had fallen straight to sleep. She began doing dishes and stopped the water when she heard me giggling and screeching. She waited a few minutes to see if I would lay back down and go to sleep, but I kept laughing and screeching loudly, so she headed up to try to rock me to sleep. But when she entered the nursery, she realized the window was open, curtains were blowing in the breeze, and I was staring and pointing at the window as if someone left. She ran to the window to look out, but there was no one in sight. In fact, she was so freaked out she called the police, but they found no sign of anyone. Mom says there were numerous more similar incidents after that day. I hope you enjoyed this different format of video. It's a compilation of the really short stories that can't be made into videos themselves. If you did, let me know and I can do more of the multi-story videos in the future. Thank you to everyone who submitted a story for today's video. If you have a paranormal story to share for an upcoming video, email it to the address in the description below. Please like and subscribe. It would mean the absolute world to me. And with that, I'll see you tomorrow, friends.